morning. My name is Tony Zollicoffer, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the cost of caring, trauma, and self care. So, first of all, if you weren't planning on being in this workshop, you weren't planning on talking about self care, and you find yourself in the wrong place, now is the time to get up. However, be mindful that you might be in a little bit of a bad place here because if you get up and leave, folks might think you're not interested in taking good care of yourself. So, one of two things, you may want to get up and pretend you have to go to the bathroom really bad and leave, or maybe just sit and bear it. And hopefully, by the end of our time together, you will get something out of this. So, we'll talk a little bit about the learning objectives, what I'm hoping that we will accomplish by the end of the time together. Then, I'll tell you a little bit about where the journey that got me here. We'll have some time for questions and answers. And by the end of the time, I am really hoping that you will walk away with a self-care plan or the beginnings of a self-care plan. So, the learning objectives, we will talk about why self-care is important. We will define some topics like burnout. We will talk about secondary traumatic stress, compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma. We'll discuss symptoms and the impact of those symptoms on helpers. We will discuss self-care and coping strategies, and then we'll hopefully come up with a self-care plan. But before we do that, I want to tell you a little bit about why this topic is really important to me and what got me to the place where I'm doing presentations and talking to other people about the importance of self-care for helpers. This happened about 9 or 10 years ago, and I was working at the House of Ruth, Maryland. It was a new job that was created to bring an outreach center to Prince George's County. The House of Ruth, Maryland is a domestic violence center for survivors, and my job was really to get us into the community and to be able to provide support for trauma victims and their children. And we were doing really, really good work. We were seeing a lot of women heal. We were seeing a lot of women get to safety. And the work was incredibly rewarding and incredibly hard. My girlfriend, who has been a very, very good friend of mine for many years, met a new guy. And she values my opinion and wanted me to meet him. She'd been dating him for a few weeks, and she was very interested in him, and she wanted me to meet him. So we decided to have lunch on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and we walk into the restaurant together, and we're sitting there, and I'm tense, and I'm anxious, and I have all of these emotions running through me that I can't quite explain. The moment that we sit down, I start peppering him with questions. These are deeply personal questions and questions that are quite uncomfortable for him. So after a few minutes of bearing it, he makes some excuse about leaving something at work, and he dashes out of the restaurant. My girlfriend looks over at me, and she's quite confused and quite upset about how I've been treating her new boyfriend. And she looks over at me and she says, "Who were you talking about? Who were you asking those questions to?" And she said, "Were you talking about one of your clients? Or were you talking about me and Bob?" And tears started to run down my face. And I looked at her and I said, "I'm not talking about one of my clients. I'm talking about all of my clients." And that was the moment that it hit me, that I had been carrying inside of me, all of the stories, all of the pain, all of the all of the hard work, and I didn't have an outlet for releasing it. And so today I want to talk to you about ways that I found helpful to be that container for the stories, but to dump it out so that there's room to refill.